come out at night. The geeks come out at night. The geeks come out at night.
The geeks come out.
The geeks come out at night.
Hello, everybody out there. This must be Wednesday night, so it must be time to keep crawling with Mike and Brendan. And I am Michael Curtis.
And I am Brendan LaSalle.
And here we are back in the basement for one last time before we turn the lights off for the summer and go back to our usual Wednesday nights, whatever that may be. It's been so long, I don't even remember what we do on Wednesday nights anymore. When I'm not hanging out with you, Brendan, down here in the basement.
I'm not sure. I'm going to have to come up with a whole new Wednesday night routine. Is Matlock still on? Because maybe it's time to catch up.
But you know what? Matlock is not back on, but it's been so long now. Perry Mason is back on.
Ooh.
But it's not your mom's. It's not your mom and dad's Perry Mason. Apparently it's.
Nah.
And it must be 8:00 because Jess is in the chat room. So I can.
What's up, Jess?
Hello. Can you smell what the Jess is cooking?
Yeah.
I did mean to kick things off with a let's get ready to keep crawling, but I kind of forgot in the excitement to get here. So, all right.
Been there.
Oh, so power has returned to my neck of the woods. So, big apologies for skipping last week. But literally I was in the dark. More so than usual. So what have you been up to in the week while I was recovering power, Brendan?
I turned in a manuscript. I turned in my first ever horror adventure, which I'm pretty excited about, which will eventually wind up being a part of the DCC horror line. So that is very cool and groovy. I had some gaming. I got some gaming in. I did your magnificent our Saturday morning war crawl game. And for all y'all watching out there who are still a part of it, hey, who's in the leaderboard this week? Who's up on top again?
I believe the balance. I believe neutral is ahead by a point, but
yeah.
I have to say, man, it's everybody's like 1 point ahead of each other. So we've got 3 sessions left. Anything could go. So who knows who's going to end up at the end? So.
Well, it's been tremendous fun, and that's been it's an amazing game. And like I said, it's the first time I've taken a character from 0 level to 3rd level, and that's super fun. And I have only ever had a knife. That's my only weapon I've ever had for the entire game, and such, which is actually pretty thrilling. You know what I mean? And it's the same knife I've had since 0 level. So I don't know. Just very, very fun, very, very fun.
Whatever.
How about yourself? Other than power going out and everything going mad, what have you been up to?
I also did. I turned in a big, huge manuscript. Well, my part of a big, huge manuscript. So that was very nice to get off of my table of stuff I had to do. So that is all in. So I'm very happy to do that. I spent today feeling like there was something I should be doing. So but that's just because I've been working on that all summer long, and now I've put it in the hands of somebody else to usher it on to greatness. So I'm very happy at that point. So I'm actually going to take a couple days breather and then start in on the next thing that I've got to do. So that's the plan. So all is good though, but that is for a later date. So as we said, here we are, a journey that started, well, if we had gone according to schedule 10 weeks ago, but since we did not, 12 weeks ago, 3 full months of keeping crawling and keeping you people at home entertained with our antics. So we appreciate your presence here. We appreciate you sticking through this with our technical issues that we ran into, like about the middle of the episode run. But we finally got everything going. As is our wont, we fixed everything just as we're about to leave. So
yeah.
Brendan, you received something today, correct? That would
Yes. My new computer, which comes with my new microphone and my new lights, so that I won't look like the shadow. Although I do like being your dark half here, I kind of feel like sort of like yes, Curtis, yes, embrace your evil side, But so we're exactly positioned for the show that is ending this very evening, this season of it. So that's always the way it is.
Right.
But I don't know that you'll see the last of us or the basement. Gosh darn it, I don't know that for sure.
I believe that we will be back, just as our plan is, just when you least expect it, or have finally feel, thank God they're gone. We will return, like, like a rash. We will come back. We will crawling back to the roof. So, it's okay. All right. Well, you guys have been hanging around for us for 10 episodes now, so you pretty much know the drill. But so before we get into stuff, we are going to be basically asking you guys. We have been providing you with with advice and answering questions that we've come up with and stuff. So before we turn off the lights, we want to hear if there's anything that you guys want to know from us about game design, about game mastering, just about Brendan and I in person, about the game industry, anything like that. But so we'll give you some time to think about that and to so drop some questions into chat. But in the meantime, it is now time for Treasure Type U. Brendan, what do we have tonight? I think it's you have a strange connection. We've almost come full circle here. So.
I do. We have come full circle. I think it's very appropriate for our last episode of season 1 for us to go over this particular artifact. This actually comes to us from Tim DeShane. So Tim's, but it originally came from me. This is actually one of my original notebooks. So every year I actually every year I do a new notebook, which is the notebook that I bring around to all of the conventions that year when I am on the road indeed going to conventions. And it has my notes for all of the adventures that I'm going to run. So I don't bring like typed versions. Very often I don't have typed versions. Mostly they just exist in notes in my notebook. So in this particular case, this is for my buddy Tim, and Tim DeShane. He showed me his collection of really groovy stuff. He had a bunch of original artwork. His 40th birthday was coming up, and I was thinking, oh, what would be a really cool thing? And I realized, I'll hand up one of my old notebooks. So I actually I took pictures of all of the individual pages so that I could recopy them into my next year's notebook. And then I signed it for him, and I ran a birthday game for him for his 40th birthday. I wrote the notes in there, and then I gave him the whole notebook from the front of it. So it was very cool to have it, to have it crop up in there. One of the things in that notebook that Tim has, it has the original version of Neon Knights. That before I ever thought about really thinking seriously about publishing it, it was all written inside of there, and that was where that game lived. It was the only place that it was in there for quite a until I think the year after I gave that to him is when Joseph said, yeah, let's go ahead and publish this. So that is the original Neon Knights, and a bunch of other little tidbits. You'll notice if you're looking at it, the cover is done up with a particular, like a bag style cover, like you used to do back in high school. And that is because that is a notebook that I received for Christmas that I don't even remember, but it had like the most trite, like nonsensical writer phrase on the front cover that I couldn't stand to look at it, even though it was otherwise a very nice notebook. Something like believe, imagine, dream, something along those lines. And I just had to cover it in draw spell.
Oh, you mean it wasn't and now I'm completely forgetting the name of the artist who does like all like the unicorn stuff. Not Lisa.
I don't know who that is.
So somebody will chime in at some point. But yeah, okay. All right, that's cool, man, and that's very generous of you to get that to give that out. So cool, man. Cool.
Absolutely. Well, Tim's a pal, and like people have a whole lot of writer artifacts. So
I knew one of our awesome viewers would kick it. Yes, Lisa Frank, exactly. Meridian 3 is precisely who I was thinking of. Yes.
Thank you, audience. Well done once again. Outstanding.
So, that is why we've come to rely on you, because there's only so much room left up here anymore. So. All right.
Sad but true.
That was very cool, and thank you for Tim for submitting that and giving the viewers a chance to take a look at that and see a little bit behind the magic curtain that is Brendan LaSalle. No.
That's
Okay. All right, so we've got about 50 minutes to fill with some questions. So we've got a few coming in right now, but let's start with something we already have in house, and this way we'll get a chance to get some more in there. All right, so Brendan, let's start things off with a question for you, since I will throw this one to you, and this is from our somebody who viewers of the show will remember. This is from the Warehouse Yeti, Keith LeBaugh. Keith has a question for Brendan here. It says we of a certain age grew up with a strong relationship between classic heavy metal and fantasy RPGs. Now that you're done with X-Crawl Classics, Brendan, can we expect more vintage metal themed adventures for that world? Seems a perfect match. Fire it up, brother man. All right. So what's up, man? Do you have anything in the chute?
You know, it's so funny. I hadn't really been thinking in that direction. You know, I've always said that while DCC is a super metal game, really X-Crawl at its core is it's a very American, more modern, and really more of a hip hop feel to it. You know what I'm saying? It feels like modern athletics. And if you want to me, the inner soundtrack of it very often is like those Jock Jam records that are full of like, you know what I mean? You know, funky, Gold Medina, just nonsense, you know, hip hop from my youth. But you know what though? I think I've been thinking about doing essentially a retro X-Crawl adventure. So like in in the false history of the world of X-Crawl, when it first started out, like, you know, X-Crawl at the time I'm writing it right now it's been going on for, you know, about 25, 30 years, somewhere in that range. And now it's almost like it's so safe now. You know what I mean? If you're in the audience, you're completely safe. Not safe for players, not safe for the monsters they face, but like it's really regulated. They really have the rules down, and like there's not a lot of chance of things going wrong. But I thought, wouldn't it be fun to write an adventure before they regulated everything? You know what I mean? So back when it was not uncommon for a monster to say, get up in the stand and have to be like killed, out in front of the wine pavilion. You're having to stab this thing that's, got like, Lady Jessica cornered, over by the porta potties or whatever. So in that case, I think I would go with a much more metal kind of an attitude. And I love the idea of doing kind of a Judas Priest style, like, Judas Priest style, like house band that maybe, they're actually playing live while you're in there. I think it'd be really fun. Maybe the band's even a bunch of, creatures from underground that are actually, why can't Orc City 1 or Orc City 2 have their own rock band? So, I love that as a concept. And, I think it's time for retro. I think, there's enough X-Crawl out there now establishing the now of it that I can do an adventure from the past of it.
That's cool. Cool. So, all right. So maybe we'll see something one of these days, So
I'd love to.
Keith, there you go, man. So keep watching the skis. I mean, keep watching the sky. I mean, keep an eye out. We'll get something in here. All right. So, I did.
All right. So sorry. Go ahead.
No, go ahead. You had something.
I'll go ahead and read one.
Okay.
Are you ready for the next question?
Sure.
All right. So this is from Daniel, and I'm going to murder this last name. Daniel Neugebauer. I practiced this, and now I can't do it. Daryl Neugebauer. Sorry, Daniel. I'm so sorry. He says, if you could add one modern author to the Appendix N, who would it be? Bonus question, which female author is deeply mixed in the Appendix N?
Okay. All right. So I was thinking about this one because this is kind of a tricky question for me, because I really, and don't think bad of me this, but I don't read a lot of current fantasy. I mean, I think the most current thing I read the George R.R. Martin Song of Ice and Boobies or whatever it is, before the once the HBO show came on. But that's like the most current thing that I've really written. Read when it comes to like the straight up fantasy. So this is not like a great question for me to answer. I've thought about it. If I had to pick like a current author, and it's not really a good fit, I might go with James S.A. Corey, who's doing like the Expanse novels, because that's like the that's like the most, because I know they're gamers first and foremost, but for me that's like the right. That's like the right mix of kind of hard science fiction that I enjoy. So that's kind of like the most recent name that I would have to pick up that falls kind of in the genre category. So
very cool.
How about you, man? Do you know anybody current?
Okay, well, of the current ones, here's the thing. I'm sort of like you. I tend to sort of not read a lot of modern fantasy right now. But if I was going to add one like thing to it that I think has a lot of really neat stuff for magic in there, and like has a really good fantasy thing, I would go with Susanna Clark, who wrote Jonathan Strange and Mr. Norrell.
Oh yeah,
Which
okay.
Yeah, I'm a huge fan of that book. I think it's an amazing, it's really, to me, the best modern fantasy. If you haven't read it, Jonathan Strange and Mr. Norrell takes place during the Napoleonic Wars in England, where you have, and in the world, it is a world where there used to be real magic. They used to deal with fairies used to live amongst people in England, and there were a lot of practitioners of magic. And now a lot of the people have the magic has gone away, and then suddenly it returns in the form of two modern wizards, Strange and Norrell, who both rise up. They become friends, they become enemies, and then they have to sort of reconcile against a common foe there towards the end. The way they do magic in that book is really interesting. I think they do a lot with the formula for magic. A lot of the formulas have been lost, and they're always trying to like recreate these old formulas. And fairies have their own style of magic. I really like it. It has they have this sort of mirror world that they can go into. They try not to, but like they can step through a mirror and like walk through this bizarre otherworldly landscape and go to the others. If I was going to add anybody, I would say, Susanna Clark for modern people. I think she's fantastic, and I think that I'd love to do more in that world. I'd love to do like sort of like write, or I don't know. I'd love to see more fantasy based on that era and of that kind of genre. I don't know. I think it's a really, really neat. Right. But if I was going to go back, other part of that question, part two, and I actually just I blanked on I just looked at the name again. So I just blanked on the author's name. But I'm kind of surprised, at least back then, I was kind of surprised that Mary Stewart got left out. She wrote The Crystal Cave, and a couple of the Crystal Cave series, but they concern Merlin when he is, it's sort of like following Merlin from being a very young boy up through his education, his childhood. I always thought they were fantastic fantasy novels, and of course, it's Arthurian. It really captured my imagination as a child to sort of see like Merlin as this exceptionally strange child with these crazy senses and these sort of like burgeoning abilities that sort of like come out in the beginning days. So that's who I would add.
Right. Writing fantasy novel that depicts a strange child. I think she'd know exactly what her audience was. I think any boy or girl at that age picking up a fantasy novel is going to identify with the strange child motif. For me, if I had to pick one, I would go with C.L. Moore. Simply because if we already have Lee Brackett in there, we need C.L. Moore just so I could have John Eric Stark and Northwest Smith hanging out on Mars, getting into a bar brawl and incinerating people with their ray guns and everything. C.L. Moore is the other queen of like space opera sci-fi as far as I'm concerned. So
wow.
Yeah, so I think
I'm completely unfamiliar.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, she's definitely worth checking out. If you can get any of her Northwest Smith ones, it's really Northwest Smith is the prototype to Han Solo, whether George Lucas knew it or not. So okay. We do have a question coming in from the chat. So we have one from Sleepy Fingers. Here's for both of us here, Brendan. So do either of you have art books that use as reference or inspiration material sometimes? So.
I do not personally. Sometimes, I don't really, I don't know. I mean, other than the DCC books and like, my old monster manual. No, I really don't. I don't, I try to work the other side of it. I try to come up with these crazy things that I then say, hey, artist, make this happen.
Yeah, there's definitely that's definitely the word monkey problem. Like writers are more likely to go into other writers and see what they're doing. That being said, I actually do. I have two collections of the work of Rodney Matthews, and I really dig Rodney Matthews. You may not know the name, but if you've ever seen like a Yes album cover from like the 70s, like the late 60s, everything like that, he did that. He did a whole bunch of like the old trippy Michael Moorcock novel covers. Like if you saw his style right now, you would be like, oh, that's Rodney Matthews. He does a great one, which is like a bunch of mercenaries kind of hanging around in like this post-apocalyptic England, post-fantasy England, and the mercenaries are the Rolling Stones. You know, it's clearly like, you know, it's like, you know, he put out at least 2 collections of his, you know, his art back in the day, and I own both of them. And you know, actually, a lot of his like the images that he used for the War Crawl, the one with Corum on the that's Rodney Matthews. Yeah. So,
okay, cool. I didn't know that.
So, yes.
That's awesome.
So that's my thing. The other thing I've been getting into is Tim Kirk, I want to say. I'm thinking it's Tim Kirk. But he's another one who kind of like came out of like that almost like late 70s, you know, kind of trippy, you know, almost psychedelic fantasy stuff. So I got a book which I thought was a collection of his work, but actually turned out to be an index of where to find his work. So not quite as useful. But but at least if I want to get serious, I can find them all now. So
yeah. I used to have a really good dictionary that had architectural pictures because I didn't know the names of a lot of the things I was trying to describe, and I would have to go through those and things. Mm-hmm. However, as of this very last move, I have no idea where it is. I went looking for it last week or last month for this thing I was working on, and no idea. So.
Somewhere in this house. Theoretically, either that or somewhere between Georgia and Massachusetts, you know. Yeah,
that's what I'm thinking. Right now, there's somebody's like, you know, some, you know, gentleman of the road is using it as a pillow somewhere on the. You know.
All right. There was a question earlier from Judge Christian, and I think this is a personal attack, so I have to. No, it's not a personal attack, but I have to address. Judge Christian wanted to know when we were going to see Stonehill DCC, and the answer to that question is I never say never, but the chances of me doing it are incredibly slim. All right. First of all, you don't really need a DCC version of Stonehill Dungeon if you cannot do DCC, you know, with Stonehill Dungeon. I think it would kind of, you know, it defeats the purpose, I guess. You know, I mean, it would actually, I think it would actually end up being slightly bigger if I had to DCC it. So, and the second reason is I am very loath to go back and revisit old territory. You know, it's like Stonehill was, believe it or not, Stonehill was 11 years ago. You know, and, you know, think about your own life, you know, think about the stuff you did 11 years ago. Do you really want to go back there? You know, hopefully you're a bigger, better person than now. So, I'll never say never, but it's not anywhere high on the list of things to do. I would rather like see what's over the next horizon than go back, you know. So that being said, if somebody out there wanted to do it, contact me. We can talk licensing, and you know, if you've got some money, maybe put some money in my pocket, and I'll let you run with it.
Actually, I've got a pitch for you. If you want to hear it, okay? So hear me out, okay? We do that winds up being the first part of the series. We do Water Hell, Fire Hell, and Earth Hell. Boom, boom, boom. No, Air Hell, and now it's 17,000 pages long.
Right.
Of dungeon. It's just.
I've seen this movie. That's it. It's a George Lucas film. We just keep going back and changing stuff and editing stuff. So yeah. So I am. You know, I just don't see myself going. I mean, things might change. You know, if somebody waved enough money under my face, I would probably do it. But under my own recognizance, I mean, I haven't even put out like a 10-year anniversary of Stonehill. But you know, I'm glad it's out there. It still sells. People are still loving it. I still get a lot of positive feedback. I'm glad people are doing it. But you know, but cool. But you know, it's like, hey, what's to do next, right? Okay, so. All right. So what's up? We got something from the list here, Brendan, or yeah?
Okay, you ready for the next one?
Sure.
Well, I got one also from Daniel. What are you working on right now? Could you talk a little bit about your upcoming DCC projects? No, we can't.
No, we really can't.
We'll get fired. I don't, you know, I can say that I am working on, this hasn't been slated for publication or whatever, but I'm personally, I just had my idea yesterday for the next X-Crawl adventure. And I literally wrote down a title idea, the DJ, the city, All I can say is that I'm going to try to fill the gap in levels. So I'm thinking it'll probably be a second level adventure for X-Crawl Classics, but that's all I got so far. That's the one thing I've got on my plate. Just turned something in. I turned in that horror adventure I was talking about almost 2 weeks ago now. And so I don't have anything officially on my plate, but that's coming up.
Right. Yeah, I suppose I can mention the fact that I am in the process of slowly beginning to outline DCC Lankmar Phase 2. So I have to start thinking about what we're going to cover with the next phase. So now that the cat is out of the bag and everybody has a basis, where do we go from here? So it's just me kind of blocking out ideas and trying to put together an outline and stuff because again, like with the original with the original DCC Lankmar, it's not all going to be me. So I've got to think about, okay, what are we going to freelance? What are we going to bring other people in on stuff? So this is nothing really exciting, but it's the groundwork that has to be done. So all right, so there we go. So okay, well, we still got some more questions, but we've got time to kill. So if there's anything else you guys want to know, please by all means do not be shy.
Pick it up there.
Otherwise, we're just
now's the time.
I'm gonna start asking Brendan, like, okay, who'd win in a fight, Grandmaster Melly Mel or half the members of Striper? This.
Mel takes that 10 times out of 10. You know what I'm saying? And I mean, unless it's a Guitar Hero, maybe the Striper guys got that one.
All right. Oh, wait, well, okay. So, all right. So Hector has a question for me. He says, this is actually, I teased this. Hector wants to know is that I had the nickname of Chainsaw for a good period of time in my life. And this actually was only revealed to certain Goodman people at Gen Con last year. And it actually stopped a dinner conversation like stone dead in his tracks where Joe was just like, all right, wait a minute. I have to hear this story. So I don't even, were you there, Brendan? Did you hear this or are you? Okay.
No, but I heard the story of this story later on, but
okay, all right. So basically, what it is, it's not well. So when I was in college, freshman year of college, there was a group of us who were hanging around, and right around Halloween time, at the college, there was something that they did on like a Friday, Saturday night was called Midnight Theater. So it was a chance for the drama club to try out skits, and it was funny. It was very entertaining. It being held around midnight on a Friday night, the audience was well lubricated, let's say, and this being SUNY New Paltz in the early 1990s, that was, we were literally one exit down the thruway from Woodstock, so so lubricated wasn't the only way that people went to Midnight Theater. So I went there with some friends, and I was well lubricated because we were hanging out in the dorm room drinking before we went. So it was right around Halloween time. So if you've ever seen the Whose Line Is Anywhere, you might know the skit Helping Hands, where they have one person up, he has their hands behind his back, and they have another person behind there and sticks his hands to the armpits, and then they're, they do all the fun stuff, so, they have no control over their hands, while somebody else is handing them, like, here, make a hot fudge sundae, and of course it goes everywhere. So this being Halloween, they were like trying to carve a pumpkin and, handing out candy, doing all the rest of that stuff. So what happens is they ask the audience at one point, they say, okay, when little kids come to your house for Halloween, what do you give them? And the audience being, very, very, very happy, starts yelling out answers. So it was swift kick in the butt, it's a, the kitchen sink, blah blah blah, and it's all fun and good, and it gets to that moment when the audience dies down and the skit is just about to kick in, when a voice from way back in the theater yells out, "Chainsaws!" at the loudest volume that he possibly can, because he is drunk and happy. So that person is me. And so the crowd cracks up and everything, and the skit goes on, and I think nothing of it until the next morning, when I'm walking across campus, and another one of my friends who was there with me goes, hey, Chainsaw, what's happening? And that stuck with me for about 10 years. So trust me, more people at college knew me than I knew them, because if you went to a party and you met somebody named Chainsaw, you remembered that the next morning, and I did not remember meeting these people. So. And then, of course, we had a punk band, and everybody needed a punk name, so that became Chainsaw, and, there you go. And that's, so there's still a few people who will call me Chainsaw, although it actually has become shortened to just Saw nowadays. So, well, that's the story. That's the story of how I became known as Chainsaw. I don't really use it nowadays, but, it's that's how I got there. So. All right. While I was telling that story, it looked like we got some couple people want to know some questions. So let's see. Okay. Let's see. Sky 2 has a question here. All right. So how about Sky 2 wants to know about how about some of the worst fantasy writing we've run across, whether from bad prose or just aging horribly. They propose Gore and the Horse Clans novels since nobody asked my opinion. So, so what do you have a nomination for terrible fantasy that's not Gore or the Horse Clans?
I mean, there are several I'm not a fan of. Who was the Blue Adept guy?
Oh God, the Blue Adept.
I don't remember that one. That was one I tried as a child, and let me go ahead and say I'm much harder on fantasy fiction than I am on any other genre. You know what I mean? I will pick up and read a wacky crime book, or mysteries or that kind of thing. But like, I get very frustrated if my fantasy book doesn't get me right away. You know what I'm saying? You have to be at least as good as what I've got going on in here to get me charged for it. And I start many more fantasy books and series than I actually wind up finishing. Actually, I will say one that I'm gonna say this one because I got a story with it. This is terrible, and someone's gonna be so mad at me for this. But Robert Jordan's Wheel of Time series.
Okay.
I mean, so when I met my wife, she was a real big fan of this. Okay, I mean, she was one. Whenever the new book would come out, she would read the entire series again and then read that one and such. I know. Like we were on book 11 when we met or whatever, and she was. And at one point she was like, I really wish you would read these. But she also complained about them all the time. She told me about how much she hated these books that she couldn't put down. So I was kind of predisposed not to like it. So I finally was like, all right, I'm going to try. I'm really going to give this a try. I said, sweetie, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to read one chapter a night of this book until I get it done, and then we'll talk about it. Fine. So night 3, I'm reading this thing, and he just does this one particular writer thing where he would do these little weird word and phrase substitutions, like they weren't speaking English in this world. They were speaking fantasy language,
Right.
But even so, he would change coffee to calf. And they weren't bards, they were glee men or whatever. And there was a million things like that. I found it really, really distracting. So I'm in the middle of chapter 3 and I look up and Lori is watching me as if I'm about to take a spoonful of castor oil. And she's like, you don't have to read that. I'm like, well, what's your favorite part of this novel? Give me the best bit and I'll read that right now. Mm-hmm. And she was like, I don't have a best bit. And that was the end. So I read the first 3 chapters of Robert Jordan, and and I met him, and he was like a nice guy and all. Like seems like a good dude, but his style and my reading just didn't vibe up.
You just bounced off it hard, right? That was just right.
Right.
Well, you get brownie points for being a good husband. At least at least making the attempt. So there you are.
Right.
So good for you. Like I said, I haven't read a lot of modern I don't read a lot of fantasy these days. So however, I have a runner-up that is it. Though there was a period when I don't know if anybody out here is familiar with the Deathlands series of novels, right? So the Deathlands series is what I call gun porn. Because it was published by, I think it was Eagle Press, and it was one of those series that was started in 81 or 1980, maybe even 1979. It was one of those ones they had was ghost written, they had a house writer, and it was every plot was the same exact plot, it was so by the numbers, and they were up to 187, by the time that the series wrapped out. And the thing was you could pick up any Deathlands book at any time and know exactly where you were. And it was written for predominantly men, predominantly white guys, who loved, who may not have been preppers or may not have been would-be militia guys, but were definitely leaning in that direction, So because the prose was just so bad until it got to a weapon. And then then it would go there would be a paragraph lovingly describing every aspect about and it was if you've read American Psycho, you know how like brands are like, you know, like all over American Psycho. Deathlands was like that with guns. It was like like, you know, he drew his heckler and you know, it just end with a like it just he would go with like how it was customized and everything. But it was a post-apocalyptic novel, you know. So it was, you know, so he's, you know, we are like the, you know, our lead character Ryan Caldor. He has like one eye, and he's, you know, he's like the hard-bitten leader who was like the like basically a prince, and he was leading his group across the, you know, across the post-apocalyptic, you know, landscape of America, fighting mutants and all sorts of other stuff. And I read a bunch of those, and it was like really hate reading for a while, just because I so wanted something post-apocalyptic at that point. I ended up getting like I had like a whole bunch of them, and I got rid of, you know, I ended up getting rid of them. But yeah, that was really like that was like the book I love to hate, and you know. So.
No, that's awesome. I have a post-apocalyptic hate series as well. Okay, so this was.
I was going to say it's not The Survivalist, is it?
No. I've heard of those, but I haven't. This was it. No. Okay, so the story is I was working in Manhattan. I actually was working on a concert video. It was a Harry Connick Jr.'s concert, and I was a PA for the video crew. And at some point, we realized there was a contract screw up, and somebody had to be there overnight, sitting with somebody's equipment. I think like the computer guys. You know, somebody had to literally be in the room 24/7. So they were like, you know, who wants to volunteer and actually crash her? I'm like, I'll do it, because this way I'm not taking the, you know, otherwise it's like up at 3 a.m. and home at midnight and the whole thing. So, but after the first day there, I'm going bug nuts just because nothing to read. So I'm like, could anybody please bring me a book? And the one guy was like, oh man, I'm reading something so good right now. You are going to love it. And the next day he comes in with a stack of paperbacks like this, and it's the Doomsday Warrior. And the Doomsday Warrior are all about, it's okay, so it's, you know, Russia first strikes America with nuclear things, and now America is a radiated wasteland. But those survivors are bringing it together under the leadership of Ted the Rock Roxon. Swear to God. And like his physical stats, he got bigger as the novels went. So like he started like 6'2" and 240 pounds of rock hard muscle to like 6'7", and he just got bigger and bigger. And like it also had a lot of gun form, but it was fake gun form, like that they would make up. So like they had like these, the Liberator was the name of their rifle that had all these. I don't even remember what it was. Anyway, those were awful. They were terrible, terrible, terrible books. And I read 4 of them. Like, you know, just, you know.
Oh man, yeah, I know. It's definitely drawn from. I think it was for the same audience. It's like when you get done with Deathlands, so like, you know, to read Doomsday Warrior and then read The Survivalist, you know, while you're waiting for, you know, it's the same, you know, same thing. I actually, you know, I have a similar story. I once guarded a generator overnight, and but I read The Princess Bride from cover to cover. So much better.
That's awesome, though.
Yeah, that's it. So. All right. So Nolabert RPG has a question for us here. I feel like we may have touched on this a little bit, but it's like, what big sci-fi world would you most want to give a shot to write for as an RPG? Star Wars, Star Trek, Dune, Buck Rogers, John Carter, etc.
Well, I mean, you know, yes. Buck Rogers. I would have to go back and read Buck Rogers again, because all I remember is Twiggy. Oh, Buck, I'm gonna help you out. You know, I don't really remember what was the point of Buck Rogers, except that he was from our time, and he winds up in Buck Rogers' time. So, but beyond those, I mean, what would be really cool? Yeah, you know, the Expanse would be cool. Actually, you know what? Maybe the Matrix. You know, I think there's a lot of unexplored, you know, stuff going on over there. Was the entire simulation American cities? You know what I'm saying? Right. Like maybe, you know, maybe there's other people out there. I don't know. That's just maybe that's the first thought. But I have to think about that. What other? No. Yeah, I don't know. How about you?
I'm a big fan of the whole Aliens universe. You know, I know that Free League already has the Aliens out, but you know, if they get the opportunity, although I feel I'm not like a huge Alien head, although I've read like a whole bunch of the comics, and to this day, like my most irrational fear is the Xenomorph. Like about once a year, I have a good, like, the alien is like chasing me type dream. You know, it's just, I think Giger's design is just so.
Yeah.
Thank you for scaring the hell out of me.
Right.
But I think you see, here's the one. It's not like a big name. But I would love to play with the universe from The Stars My Destination, because I love the book The Stars My Destination. It's Albert Bessler. And it's like so proto cyberpunk before there was cyberpunk. It's like weird teleportation, and I mean, it's a little aged. There's some things that are a little like I don't know about that, but for the most part, I think I just love it. It's just you could probably just run it you could just use it to run Traveler, but but yeah, but definitely Aliens. I would love to do that. All right.
Now, if we're gonna include role playing game stuff, DCC Star Frontiers classic. I'm in. I'll start today on that. It'll be how fun would that be?
If I could bring up canceled Fox television shows, I actually worked for a while back in the 90s on a homebrew Space Above and Beyond role playing game. So
no kidding.
Yeah, my buddy was actually working on a collectible card version of it as well. So that was like the first show I watched religiously, like the way that some people watch Star Trek. For whatever reason, it just clicked with me. And then of course it got canceled because it was on Friday night on Fox. So everything got no, it was Sunday night on Fox and kept getting preempted by Super Bowl. All right.
Yeah.
All right, Brendan, question for you from Brendan. What music are you checking out now? Like literally, like right now. What are you listening to?
Okay, right now, honestly, so two things. I still like do Pandora because I'm old and I love it. So I have created a Pandora station. I've got a couple of really good ones, but my Pandora station that I do, it's all based on the song "If You Want Me to Stay" by Sly and the Family Stone. So if you can picture it, it's pretty much that song, all the music that influenced it, and all the music that Sly has influenced since then. I love that. But I'm also really I'm digging very hard on New Orleans music right now. I'm trying to support. There's a lot of New Orleans musicians are completely out of luck right now. You know what I mean? Like there's just no jobs, there's no busking going on. But I'm crazy about this band out there called Tuba Skinny. And if you get a chance, check out Tuba Skinny online. I live in New Orleans. I love New Orleans music, and I'm just nuts for them. What else? I'm really into like a lot of internet bands, like the Rainbow Girls. I'm really, really into the Rainbow Girls right now. I'm probably other than Joseph himself, I might be the least metal person to really be into DCC. Other than Black Sabbath and Motorhead, and I still there's some metal. I had a very serious metal period that still flares up upon occasion, but I listen to all kinds of stuff. But check out Tuba Skinny, check out the Rainbow Girls.
Check out your sister's band.
Check out my sister's band. Check out Missy Flapjack. She's amazing. Her new album just came out, and I recommend highly. She's really good. I'm proud of her.
Here's a good one. Sleepy Fingers wants to know, what's a DCC MCC content by another person that you are jealous that you like so much that you wish you had written it or you had wrote it?
Oh, DCC, I'll say Death Flames of Eternity by Marzio. I can't say his last name. By Marzio. I'm blanking on it now. But
you know who you are, Marzio. Right down. You're not supposed to write better than me.
Who you are. Gosh darn it. Yeah, that I read that and I was like, oh, I thought that's an amazing adventure. My absolute favorite third-party funnel. I think it's brilliant. That'd be mine. How about you?
I love what Harley did with Gang Lords of Lankmar. When I wrote that, I was just like, all right, you did in 20,000 words what I've been trying to do in like 120,000. Like, like you just so summed that up like so it was I loved his take on Lankmar, and I was like, this is like the perfect thing. This is so Harley, but it hits all the great high notes and everything. So that's awesome bit there. All right. Okay, so cool. Alrighty then. Do we have let's go to what we have in house, and then we'll get to a couple more questions here. All right. So
okay, are you ready?
Sure.
So this is also from Hector Cruz. Thank you, Hector. This is
how did you guys keeping us honest here. So
I know, right? No, much less. How did you guys meet? Forgive me if you already answered this in the show already, and we have not.
No, we have not.
No.
So. I don't suppose it.
Prison. No.
Says, I don't suppose it comes to any shock that we met through Goodman Games. I was trying to figure out the math, so it was either 2014 or 2015. Because that it would have been like my second or third Gen Con. And that was in that weird period where, although you had been like freelancing for Goodman, you weren't like technically like, like in-house. Because you were at the Fat Dragon booth over there working for Tom Tullis the first time I met you. So, we were introduced. I think you came over probably to do like the in-house signing, like the author signing or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And somebody was like, Brendan, this is Mike. They're like, this is Brendan, and I knew who you were because this was after I had written The Sea Queen Escapes. And when I pitched that to Joe, I was like, there's going to be like a giant turtle, and there's going to be like a dungeon in the turtle shell, and Joe was like, well, we actually have we have an adventure which has a big turtle in it. I'm like, could I see this adventure to make sure that I'm not in the same turtle territory? So that's when he sent the PDF of the Great Beast over, and I was like, oh, okay. So I read that, and so I knew who Brendan LaSalle was from that. But we were just hanging out in the booth and everything, and it wasn't until I think like the next morning, where it used to be when Goodman Games was small enough, we could actually have a business meeting before like the dealers hall hold up. So we would all meet at like the restaurant, like one of the hotels, and there'd be like 8 of us, and I think it was at the it wasn't the Embassy Suites. But it was one of the ones, and we got to talking, and it was either Long Island came up, or Blue Oyster Cult came up. It was one of the two, and then we were both like, oh yeah, Long Island or Blue Oyster Cult, and that led into the other one. And at that point, we found out like you were originally from Long Island, and then that like we just got to talking there, and then we spent the next half a decade doing conventions and traveling in the same car, meeting up and everything. So, so that's developed into the friendship that we have here today, and we're responsible for the show. So,
No, absolutely. And like, we once we met, we kind of like got along like famously, like, like very, very, very quickly. And I mean, I left Long Island when I was like 13, but we weren't like, so I grew up Hempstead, Uniondale. So I know we weren't that far from Long Island is not that big. You know what I'm saying? I mean, it's not like,
I mean, it's long, but
it's long, but it's very narrow. I think it's only like it's like 100 miles like north and south. You know what I'm saying? But like, or like this, it's a slant.
Right.
But we finally wound up like, I think where we really bonded is that with like the Gary Con. We would have like these oceans of times to hang out at Gary Con. Very often, you and I would be rooming together, and then you would have a rental car, and I would drive in with you and drive back with you.
My job I remember there was a couple of conventions where it was like, make sure Brendan could get into the hotel room because you were arriving at like 3 a.m. or something like that, and then time that you drove out to Game Hole for the first time, like make sure Brendan has all of his stuff so he can go and run his game immediately. So it's
that was the week. Yeah, you were so clutch. I can't even like. Because of the snafu at work, they wouldn't give me the day off I needed, so I actually had to work a full day at my day job. Like I had my car packed in the driveway. As soon as I got off, jumped in my car, drove from Salem, Massachusetts, all the way over to Game Hole, no. Where the heck is Game Hole?
It was Game Hole. Yeah, it was Madison, Wisconsin.
Madison, yeah, good dude. And then like I got there at like 8:30, like had driven all night long, was bleary eyed. Mike's like, here's your badge, here's your thing, there's your table. Jumped in, ran hole in the sky. Don't remember it, but Julian played. He said I did okay. So I mean, but I literally have no recollection of it. Slept for like 4 hours, got up and ran another game. So it was just like Mike completely saved me that day. And so thanks again, Mike.
It's a little known fact that out of like the Goodman writers, I am like the den mother. It's just probably because I don't drink. So like I do not get in the shenanigans. But it's like I am the one that like makes sure Brendan gets in his hotel room at 3 a.m. or figures out, okay, this is the bus that we need to take or anything. So so yeah, I enjoy the role, but so I just have to make sure everybody's okay. The artists, you guys are on your own.
You can't. What are you going to do with ours? What are you going to do?
So, I'll keep the riders in line, So, yeah. Okay. All right. I just want to know, Jess, you and I met actually I believe it was just at Gen Con last year. I think that was for the first time. That was the first, because I think that was the first convention you ever went to. So we met getting the booth set up. So it's only been a year, believe it or not. All right. All right, we're into like the last 10 minutes here. So all right, so let's pull something again for the list. And all right.
All right, I got one. Are you ready for this?
Sure.
My homeboy Nacho Sevilla Nobre. Nacho asks, I'm curious about your favorite board games and video games. Why don't you go first, Michael?
Okay, good question. All right, so being the elder statesman that we are, so basically board games. I have a buddy of mine who's actually one of my regular gaming group, my face-to-face gaming group when we can actually game together. He is like a big Euro game fan, so like he'll like have game nights. So I've played like a whole bunch of this stuff. I can't remember a lot of their names. I've played like Terraforming Mars, I've like a lot of worker placement games, and those are really fun. But the only problem is that when it comes to board games are getting really expensive these days. It's like like easy to drop $50 on a board game. And I don't want to drop that money unless I play it first. So I'm not a huge board game head. The last couple of games which I have purchased, which I have enjoyed, I am a big fan of Hobbit Tales and Cthulhu Tales from Cubicle 7. There's a great little narrative games where you're trying to tell a story and all your friends are trying to interrupt you. And I discovered a game which I enjoy and I can't wait to play with my nephews again. It is a game called Chick-a-Pig. Chick-a-Pig is a awesome strategy game which involves cow poop. And it gives getting all your Chick-a-Pigs out of the barnyard before your opponents do. And there is a rampaging cow which poops, and it's bad to go into the cow poop. So Chick-a-Pig is my favorite latest board game. Back in the day, I loved huge sprawling board games like Arkham Horror. We used to play Axis and Allies, like the old '80s version where you played out the entire World War II. We played that over the course of a year, but I don't have the wherewithal to do that anymore. So that's it. And video games, kind of the same thing. I am not a Twitch gamer, so like any sort of fighting game or anything, I just can avoid. I do play one of the MMOs. I'm on Lord of the Rings Online because I'm a Tolkien fan. And other than that, I like basically those games that some people call dismissively walking simulators. Big fan of The Long Dark. One of the best games I played in like the last couple of years is a game called The Vanishing of Ethan Carter, which is kind of a short game, but it's an investigation game, kind of supernatural stuff. I had a lot of fun with that. So, how about you, Brendan? None.
Hardly any. Yeah, almost none. I thought since we talked about this, we talked about it earlier. I'm like, maybe you take this one because I have very, very ever rarely played board games. But I thought of one. Sometimes when I get together with my in-laws and my nieces, they have this game called Smash Up that I really like, where you take two different and disparate armies. So you might have ninjas and robots, or plant monsters and dinosaurs, or pirates and accountants, or something like that. Right. And then you and your two armies go after everybody else in their two armies and try to take over these locations. So we played that, and I've had a lot of fun with it. And then every once in a while, I play Red Dragon Inn at conventions. It seems like it comes up a lot. But I'm just not a big board game guy. At a certain point, role-playing games just ate my life, and I had to cut a lot of hops out. You know what I mean? To like make room for it. I hardly ever watch sports anymore. I don't bowl anymore, and I barely ever play any kind of board games. Video games, even less so. I actually had my heart broken by a video game. I was super into City of Heroes. I was the biggest City of Heroes fan ever, and was so into it. I had two servers. I had to have two accounts, but I had so many alts. You know what I mean? That I just didn't have enough. Like one account, like the 72 or however many alts you could make with one account wasn't enough for me. I had to have another one. But they canceled that game for no good reason, and it sent me into a 2-week tailspin of self-recrimination, or however you say it, and then I walked away, and I haven't played a video game since. Or not seriously. On my phone, I have a solitaire game, I have a Sudoku game, and I have a crossword puzzle app.
Yeah.
You know?
A little secret about game designers, we hate games. We either love games or we hate games, and it depends on what day it is.
I love role playing games. I'm almost always down to play an RPG. I'm the guy that'll finish the convention, come home, and want to play that night. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
But hey, we should get together. I got this new great board game that takes 2 hours to set up, and it's just I'm like, that's what I mean.
All right. Well, all right. We are getting close to the end of the first season here, and I think that we should go out because somebody who might not be might not be watching live, but has gone through a lot of effort to get the answer to this question, and I think that we should address Jen Brinkman's question before we close out here, because therein lies a tale, and So what, Brendan, what does Jen want to know here?
Jen Brinkman's question. Jen Brinkman's question wants to know about Mike's acting credits in a certain 1995 underground horror flick. And so does all of our audience.
So that is a question. So let's go out on the story of a little movie called Franken-Chicken. Just killed Brendan. All right.
It's so funny.
So some people who have followed my career know that I, for a period, was working in Hollywood, in California, and because of that, I have an Internet Movie Database entry. I guess Jen or Bob or both of them at one point looked me up, and they saw that under my credits there is a movie called Franken-Chicken. And they have been unable to find any information about Franken-Chicken, to the point where apparently I think Bob actually got the email address of the director of Franken-Chicken and basically tried to contact him and find a copy of Franken-Chicken. I'm going to assume not to embarrass me at a convention, but I cannot say this for sure. So I'm going to say perhaps their efforts were well placed. But anyway. So they've been trying to figure out what the deal with Franken-Chicken is. So I'm going to tell you the story of Franken-Chicken here tonight. So in 1995, a buddy of mine had, he had either just finished up or was still doing an internship with Concord New Horizons Pictures in Los Angeles. And if you do not know Concord New Horizons, you might know the name Roger Corman. Concord New Horizons is Roger Corman's studio. And Roger has made, I think his autobiography is How I Made 100 Movies in Hollywood or 1,000 Movies in Hollywood and Never Lost a Dime. So my buddy Kevin comes back from California and decides he is going to shoot a short, which is going to be a retelling of Mary Shelley's Frankenstein, except with a chicken. So this was when I was in college. So we get a cast of college guys, and we get together and we shoot a movie called Franken-Chicken with no budget whatsoever. And Franken-Chicken is the story of Victor Von Chicken, who brings to life an animated. He reanimates a chicken. But because he puts bad hot dogs into it, the chicken begins to mutate and grows giant and runs about a college campus murdering people. Until the end, where the dreaded Captain Ahab shows up to dispatch Franken-Chicken with the help of the California Highway Patrol, Hunter, and Godzilla. Franken-Chicken played for a very small audience. It played in dorm rooms and house parties around New York State for a couple of years, and then kind of vanished. And because of the coronavirus, I have actually been having a discussion with some of my old buddies from college. Two of them happen to be involved with Franken-Chicken. So we came into a discussion recently, and I asked the director, I said, do you have a copy of Franken-Chicken? He said, I do not. And the other actor, and it's like, I don't have a copy of Franken-Chicken. I said, you know what? I had a copy of Franken-Chicken 15 years ago. I don't know if I still have it. Let me go look. So over the course of about a week, I went through my storage stuff, and I found a big box of old VHS tapes. And I had an old VCR just for something like this. So I spent a weekend, I plugged it in, and there were 8 tapes that were unlabeled. Like everything else I had ruled out. And I went through all 8 tapes. None of it was on there. And then I said, wait a minute. I have one more box, and I know that there's a VHS from my band in there. Maybe I put the Franken-Chicken tape in there. I open up the box, and I see there are 2 videotapes in there, and one of them is the band tape. I lift up the other one, and it's got 3 things on it. At the very end of it says says Franken-Chicken written on the spine of it. I'm like, oh! So I put it in the VHS, and I hit play, and an episode of That 70s Show comes on. I was like, no! So I was like, oh my God, something had gotten overwritten the VHS tape. So I'm like fast forward, desperately hoping that is on there. And like That 70s Show is over. And an episode of Titus is on. I'm like, no! So I'm like, oh my God, I may have the last surviving copy of Franken-Chicken and it has been erased. Titus ends up and it kicks to like the last 2 minutes of the middle thing in there. And then all of a sudden the opening shot and the theme song of Franken-Chicken comes on. So I snatched that out of there. That day I put it in a box and I sent it to Los Angeles because my friend Kevin is now he is a vice president at one of the vice presidents of one of the networks at Fox. At FX, the FX channel. So he is going to get a flunky to digitize it and preserve Franken-Chicken. So for those of you along at home, I will share with you a screenshot of Franken-Chicken. Brendan, you cannot see this, but currently being displayed is me as the role of Igor driving a car with Victor Von Chicken on our way to deliver to bring back the hot dogs and the chicken back to the lab to reanimate it. So so that is the story of Franken-Chicken, Jen. I cannot promise that Franken-Chicken will be released in any format because there are certain rights issues. And there are some people who may not want to be associated with Franken-Chicken these days, unlike me, who is a moron. But there you go. So if depending on what happens, maybe if you buy me a vanilla Coke sometime, you can get a personal showing of Franken-Chicken. All right, and that's and I can you I don't know what else we can go out on. So.
What else could you know what I mean? And, amen, Franken-Chicken. I mean, please let me see that at some point in my lifetime. Please.
You will. Once I get it back, I can show it to certain people, but, I can't put it on YouTube, so. All right. Well, we've come to the end of the show. You know what we normally do? We talk about our sponsors. So who is our sponsor this week?
I'm glad you asked me because this week we have the greatest sponsor of all, so important to us. Our sponsor this week is you, the fans. Thank you all so much for tuning in, for sending in your questions, for sending in your Treasure Type U pictures and stories and anecdotes. Thank you for paying attention and for listening to our silly show and for letting us do this. We've had so much fun doing this, and we couldn't have done it without you. I mean, it would have been ridiculous because we would have do us whatever. So thank you all. Thank you all so much.
Brendan and I still may get together on Wednesday nights just to hang out. Because
I'm with it. I'm 100% with it.
All right. So with that, I think we're going to turn off the lights in the basement one final time. We will be back another time. We need a little time off and everything. And hopefully when we get together, we will see you guys in person. If we do not see you here on the Twitch channel, hopefully we'll all be able to get together and game in person another time soon. Hopefully we'll get out of this mess sane and a little paler because we don't get much sun down here in the basement. So, all right.
May God keep you in his tender hand till he brings us together again. Good night, everybody.
I am Michael Curtis saying goodbye.
Brendan LaSalle out. Thank you so much.
All right. Take it easy, folks.
The geeks come out at night. The geeks come out at night. The geeks come out at night. The geeks come out. The geeks come out at night.